The ring lay on black velvet in the centre of the Duke's ballroom, not in a jewel box, not locked in a cabinet, not resting on a lady's finger where society expected it to be by midnight. It lay alone beneath a glass cover, catching the light of 100 candles, while 30 women in silk watched it as if it were alive. The ring was old, older than Harrowmere House. A band of deep gold, set with a square black diamond that looked less like a stone and more like a sealed secret. It had belonged to every Duchess of Harrowmere for nearly 200 years. Wives had worn it, widows had guarded it, daughters had dreamed of it, mothers had whispered that whoever wore the Harrowmere ring would never again fear poverty, insult, or obscurity. But for the past 3 years, no woman had worn it. Not since Duchess Celia Harrowmere died, and not since her husband, Duke Rowan Harrowmere, locked the ring away and forbade her name to be spoken above a whisper. Tonight, he had brought it out again. That was why they came. 30 women, 30 families, 30 carefully dressed ambitions. They stood beneath chandeliers and painted ceilings, smiling at one another, with mouths that lied and eyes that measured distance to the ring. Duke Rowan watched them from the head of the ballroom stairs. He wore black, though his mourning had officially ended 2 years earlier. He was tall, severe, and pale in the candlelight, with a face that made polite women lower their voices and ambitious mothers speak more sweetly. Beside him stood Lady Honoria Vane, his mother's cousin, and the woman who had managed Harrowmere House since Celia's death. Lady Honoria was dressed in dark blue satin, diamonds at her throat, and calm authority in every line of her body. She had arranged the gathering. She had sent the invitations. She had persuaded Rowan that a duke without an heir, a house without a duchess, and a ring without a hand created rumours that could become dangerous. "You must choose tonight," she murmured. Rowan looked down at the ballroom. "I must do nothing. You must marry again. Those are different sentences." Her smile tightened. "Do not make this harder than it needs to be." "It became hard when you invited women to stare at my dead wife's ring." Lady Honoria's voice softened. "Celia is gone." The Duke's hand closed on the stair rail. "Yes," he said. "People keep telling me that, as if repetition will make her less present." Below them, Lady Philippa Crane laughed too loudly near the ring. Her mother nudged her closer to the velvet stand. Miss Elsbeth Rowell pretended to admire the musicians while watching the Duke's reflection in a mirror. Lady Marina Pell held herself still, confident in her beauty and the rumour that Lady Honoria favoured her. All of them had come for the same thing. Not Rowan. The ring. The promise of becoming Duchess of Harrowmere. Lady Honoria leaned closer. "You insisted on your test. Let that satisfy your conscience." Rowan's gaze remained on the ring. "My conscience is not satisfied by watching vanity perform." "Then stop expecting innocence from marriageable society." He looked at her. Celia was innocent. Lady Honoria's expression shifted. Only slightly. Celia was young. She was honest. She was fragile. The Duke's eyes darkened. No, she was frightened. For the first time, Lady Honoria said nothing. The music ended. The butler struck the floor once with his staff. The room turned. Rowan descended the stairs. Every fan stilled. Every mother straightened. Every young lady arranged her face into the expression she had been told would most please a grieving duke. Tender, dignified, patient, and just a little sad. Rowan stopped beside the ring. He did not touch the glass. "Ladies," he said, "you were invited here because my household believes Harrowmere requires a duchess." A few women smiled. "I disagree." The smiles weakened. "But I have agreed to consider whether there is any woman in this room capable of wearing what my wife wore without treating it as a prize." The ballroom stiffened. Lady Honoria's eyes sharpened, but she kept smiling. Rowan continued. "One by one you will come forward. You will place your hand near the glass. You will answer one question. If your answer pleases me, the ring may be yours." A murmur moved through the room. Lady Philippa whispered, "Only one question." Rowan looked at her. "Yes." Her face flushed. The Duke turned to the butler. "Begin." The first woman stepped forward. Lady Philippa Crane. She moved confidently, one hand gliding over the folds of her rose silk gown. She stopped before the ring, lowered her lashes, and placed her gloved hand beside the glass. Rowan asked, if the Duchess of Harrowmere must choose between protecting the reputation of the house and exposing a truth that would shame it, what should she choose? Lady Philippa smiled. The house, Your Grace. Always the house. Rowan's expression did not change. Then you came for the wrong ring. She blinked. I beg your pardon. You may step aside. The first failure cracked through the room like thin ice. The second woman answered, truth, if it could be exposed delicately. The Duke asked, and if delicacy preserved the liar? She had no answer. The third said, a wife must trust her husband's judgment. Rowan said, my wife did. It did not save her. The fourth said, reputation first, truth later. The fifth said, truth first, but only in private. The sixth said she would ask Lady Honoria. The Duke dismissed her before she finished speaking. By the 10th woman, the room had stopped enjoying itself. By the 15th, several mothers were whispering that grief had made Harrowmere cruel. By the 20th, Lady Honoria's smile had become rigid. By the 27th, Lady Marina Pell stepped forward. She had waited wisely. She had watched the others fail. She had learned the shape of the trap. Her gown was silver. Her voice was calm. Rowan asked the question. If the Duchess of Harrowmere must choose between protecting the reputation of the house and exposing a truth that would shame it, what should she choose? Lady Marina did not rush. A duchess must protect truth, she said, because no house built on lies deserves to be preserved. A stir passed through the room. It was the best answer so far. Lady Honoria relaxed. Rowan studied Lady Marina. And if the truth destroys her husband? Lady Marina's smile softened. Then she must stand beside him as he suffers it. The answer was elegant, beautiful, almost right. Rowan looked at the ring. Then back at her. No. Lady Marina's face went still. No? You speak of truth as scenery for loyalty. I asked what she should choose. You answered as though the important thing was how nobly she would be seen standing afterward. Colour rose in her cheeks. You mistake me, Your Grace. I am trying very hard not to. She stepped back, humiliated. The 28th failed. The 29th failed. The 30th was Miss Aurelia Finch, whose family had lost enough money to make marriage urgent. She looked not greedy, but desperate. Rowan asked the question. She stared at the ring and whispered, I would choose whatever kept me safe. The ballroom went silent. It was not a noble answer. It was not a clever one. But it was honest. For the first time all evening, Rowan looked almost gentle. You may go, Miss Finch. She lowered her head. I failed? No, he said quietly. You told the truth, but the ring is not safety. It is a target. She stepped away, trembling. Lady Honoria came to Rowan's side before anyone else could move. This has gone far enough. I agree. Then choose Lady Marina. Her answer was excellent. It was rehearsed. All answers in society are rehearsed. Celia's were not. Lady Honoria's mouth tightened. Again that name. Always that name between them. Before she could speak, the ballroom doors opened. Not widely. Only enough for a woman in plain travelling grey to step inside. No announcement preceded her. No mother accompanied her. No jewels marked her. The butler moved quickly toward her, horrified. Madam, this is a private gathering. I know, she said. Her voice carried farther than expected. I was told the Duke had finally brought out his wife's ring. Every face turned. Rowan went still. Lady Honoria's eyes narrowed. The stranger removed her bonnet. She was perhaps 26 or 27, with rain-darkened hair pinned simply, and a face too composed to be called timid. Her gown was clean but plain, the hem damp from travel. One glove was torn at the thumb. She did not look at the ring first. She looked at the Duke. That alone made him notice her. Who are you? Rowan asked. Miss Amara Blythe. Lady Honoria stiffened. Rowan saw it. Do you know her? He asked. No, Lady Honoria said too quickly. Amara looked at her. "We have not been introduced." The answer was careful, not denial. Rowan stepped down from the ring platform. "You are not invited." "No. You are not one of the 30. "No. Then why are you here?" Amara reached into the inner pocket of her travelling cloak. Lady Honoria moved at once. "Stop her." Two footmen stepped forward. Rowan lifted a hand. They froze. Amara withdrew a sealed letter. The wax was pale green, Celia's colour. Rowan felt the room fall away. His wife had used pale green wax for private letters because she said red looked too much like a wound. Amara held it out. "I came because your wife asked me to deliver this if you ever brought out the ring." Lady Honoria laughed softly. "This is absurd." Rowan did not look at her. His eyes were on the seal. His wife's crest pressed into green wax. A small dove beneath a crown of thorns. His throat tightened. "Celia is dead." "Yes," Amara said. "That is why the letter took 3 years to reach you." The ballroom murmured. Lady Honoria's voice sharpened. "Your Grace, this woman is clearly an opportunist. She has seen the announcement, learned enough gossip to fabricate. Be silent." The words were quiet. Lady Honoria stopped. Rowan took the letter. His hand did not shake until he saw his name on the front. Not his title. Not Duke of Harrowmere. Rowan. Celia had been the last person who wrote it that way. He broke the seal. The room held its breath. He read the first line. Then his face changed. The sternness did not vanish. It cracked. He read silently until the end. When he looked up, the ballroom had become something colder than a marriage gathering. He turned to Amara. "Where did you get this?" "From your wife." "When?" "The night before she died." A gasp moved through the women. Lady Honoria stepped forward. "That is impossible. Celia died in her bed, attended by family." Amara looked at her. "No, my lady, she died afraid." Rowan's voice was low. "What else did she give you?" Amara looked at the ring beneath glass. "The reason she stopped wearing it." Lady Honoria's face whitened. Rowan saw. He looked back at the letter. Then, slowly, he read aloud. "If you are holding this, Rowan, then they have brought out the ring again. Do not give it to any woman until you ask why I took it off." No one moved. Not the 30 women. Not their mothers. Not the servants. Not Lady Honoria. Rowan lifted his eyes. The test he had given 30 women suddenly seemed small, foolish, almost childish. The dead wife, whose name everyone had reduced to grief, had left behind a question of her own. And the 31st woman had brought it to his hand. He turned toward Lady Honoria. "Why did Celia take off the ring?" Lady Honoria smiled. But for the first time that evening, fear stood behind it. "My dear boy," she said, because grief made her dramatic. Amara's voice cut across the room. "No, because she found what was hidden inside it." The ballroom went utterly silent. Rowan looked down at the black diamond ring beneath the glass. For 3 years, he had believed it was only a symbol, a memory, a curse. Now the stone stared back at him like a locked eye. And beneath all the candles, all the silk, all the ambition, and all the old Harrowmere pride, the Duke finally understood one thing. 30 women had come hoping to wear his ring, but only the 31st knew it was evidence. No one in the ballroom moved. The Duke of Harrowmere stood beside the glass-covered ring with his dead wife's letter open in his hand, and for the first time that evening, the 30 women who had come hoping to become Duchess looked less like candidates and more like witnesses. The chandeliers burned above them. The musicians sat frozen with bows hovering over strings. Mothers clutched fans against their chests. Lady Honoria stood near the platform, her face composed with such effort that the composure itself had become suspicious. And Miss Amara Blythe, the 31st woman, remained at the foot of the ballroom stairs, with rain still darkening the hem of her plain grey gown. Rowan looked down at the ring, a black diamond set in old gold. For 3 years he had refused to touch it. For 3 years, he had believed Celia took it off because grief, illness, or fear had made her turn against the duties of Harrowmere. Now her letter said otherwise. He read the last line again. "Do not give it to any woman until you ask why I took it off." Rowan lifted his eyes to Amara. What was hidden inside it? Lady Honoria answered before Amara could. "Nothing. This is madness dressed as mystery." Rowan did not look at her. "Miss Blythe." Amara stepped closer. The ring opens. A murmur moved through the ballroom. Rowan's jaw tightened. "The Harrowmere ring has been in this family for 2 centuries. It does not open." Amara's gaze did not waver. "Your wife thought the same." Lady Honoria laughed softly. "Convenient. The dead Duchess cannot correct you." "No," Amara said, "but she can still accuse you." The words struck the room cleanly. Lady Honoria's smile disappeared. Rowan turned to the butler. "Remove the glass." The butler hesitated. Lady Honoria said sharply, "No." Every eye turned to her. The butler froze. Rowan's voice became quiet. "Did I ask you?" Lady Honoria inhaled. "You are distressed." "Remove the glass." This time the butler obeyed. The glass cover lifted. For a moment, no one breathed. The ring sat exposed on the black velvet. Small, silent. Heavy with every woman who had worn it and every secret that might have passed beneath its stone. Rowan reached for it. His fingers stopped just above the black diamond. The last time he had touched that ring, it had been on Celia's hand. She had worn it at dinner, pale and quiet, her thumb moving over the stone again and again. He had thought she was nervous. He had asked if the ring was too heavy. She had said, "Only when no one listens." He had not understood. Worse. He had not tried hard enough. Rowan picked up the ring. It was colder than he expected. Amara stepped forward. "There is a notch beneath the setting." Rowan turned the ring slowly. At first he saw nothing. Then, beneath the black diamond, hidden by the curve of the gold, was a tiny line, so fine it could have been mistaken for age. He pressed it. Nothing happened. Lady Honoria released a breath, almost a laugh. Enough. Must we all stand here while a stranger invents mechanisms in jewellery? Amara's voice stayed calm. Press the notch and twist the stone toward the broken side of the crest. Rowan looked sharply at her. "How do you know that?" "Because Celia cut her finger trying to open it with a hairpin. She made me watch the second time so someone else would know." The name Celia, spoken so plainly, wounded him. He twisted the stone. A faint click sounded. The black diamond lifted like a lid. Gasps broke across the ballroom. Inside the ring, hidden beneath the stone, was a narrow hollow, and in that hollow lay a tightly folded strip of paper, no wider than a ribbon. Rowan did not move. For the first time that night, he looked afraid. Not afraid of enemies, afraid of what the woman he had loved might have tried to tell him when he was too proud, too blind, or too managed to hear it. He removed the paper carefully. It had been folded many times and protected from air by the sealed stone. The ink was faint, but readable. He unfolded it. The room disappeared again. Only Celia's handwriting remained. Rowan read silently. His face changed line by line. Lady Honoria watched him, her hands folded, her eyes burning. Amara watched Lady Honoria. That was what made her dangerous. Not that she had brought the letter. That she knew where to look. Rowan spoke at last. His voice was low. "This is a list of names." Lady Honoria said, "Old household matters, no doubt." Rowan's eyes lifted. "Women." The mothers in the room stirred. He read the first name. Duchess Helena Harrowmere. Lady Honoria went still. He read the second. Duchess Marguerite Harrowmere. Then the third. Duchess Anne Harrowmere. His voice slowed. Duchess Celia Harrowmere. A cold hush spread through the room. Lady Marina Pell whispered, "Those are all Harrowmere duchesses." Amara said, "Not all." Rowan looked at the list again. Below Celia's name were 3 more. Not duchesses. Lady Beatrice Harrowmere. Miss Lenora Wythe. Mrs. Alice Fenwick. Rowan frowned. "I know none of these." Lady Honoria answered quickly. Distant family, old servants, irrelevant names copied by an unwell woman. Amara turned to her. Celia said you would call her unwell. Lady Honoria's eyes sharpened. And Celia said many things when fever had touched her mind. Amara took one step closer. She said fever was the story you would use if poison sounded too vulgar. The ballroom erupted. Fans snapped. Someone gasped. A mother whispered, "Poison?" Rowan went utterly still. Then he turned slowly to Lady Honoria. "My wife died of lung fever. That is what the physician confirmed." "The physician you sent for. The only physician available. Because Dr. Ellery was dismissed the week before." Lady Honoria's face tightened. Rowan had remembered. The dismissed physician. At the time, Lady Honoria had said the man was impertinent, dramatic, and too fond of alarming fragile women. Rowan had believed her because Celia had been ill, and fear makes a man grateful to anyone who sounds certain. Amara reached into her cloak again. Lady Honoria snapped. "Do not allow her to produce another theatrical relic." Rowan looked at the footman. "No one touches her." Amara removed a second paper. "This is Dr. Ellery's statement. Celia gave it to me with the letter. He examined 3 women connected to the Harrowmere ring before he was dismissed." Rowan took it. His eyes moved over the writing. 3 women. All had suffered similar weakness after wearing the ring for long periods. All had complained of bitter residue near the inner band. All had been told their nerves were delicate. All had died or disappeared after questioning household medicines. The room seemed to tilt. Rowan looked at the ring in his hand. The beautiful black diamond. The proud Harrowmere heirloom. The prize 30 women had come to claim. His voice was almost inaudible. "It was killing them?" Amara answered carefully. "Not the ring alone. The ring was a carrier, a hiding place, a signal. Celia believed the women who wore it were watched, dosed, frightened, then declared unstable when they began to resist." Lady Honoria's voice was sharp. "Absurd." Rowan looked at the list again. "Who is Mrs. Alice Fenwick?" Amara's face softened with pain. "My sister." The answer surprised everyone. Rowan looked at her fully now, not as a messenger, not as an intruder. As someone with her own dead. She worked here? As a seamstress. Quiet, clever, invisible enough to hear things, Celia trusted her. Lady Honoria said, "Alice Fenwick was dismissed for theft." Amara looked at her. She was dismissed after finding the hidden chamber behind the dowager's sitting room. Lady Honoria paled. Only slightly, but Rowan saw it. "What chamber?" "No such chamber exists," Lady Honoria said. Amara held Rowan's gaze. "Ask the housekeeper." Rowan turned to Mrs. Lark, who stood near the servants' door with both hands clasped tight. The old housekeeper went white. Lady Honoria's voice cut through the room. "Mrs. Lark, remember your years of loyal service." The old woman trembled. Amara stepped toward her. "My sister died with your name in her prayer book. She wrote that you tried to warn her." Mrs. Lark covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. Rowan spoke gently, though his face remained hard. "Mrs. Lark, is there a chamber?" The housekeeper began to cry. "Yes, Your Grace." A shock went through the ballroom. Lady Honoria turned on her. "You foolish woman." Mrs. Lark flinched, but after years of silence, the first word had broken the door open. She continued. "Behind the dowager's sitting room. It was used in the old days to store family plate during war. Later, Lady Honoria kept medicines there, papers, keys, old letters. Her Grace found the entrance before she died." Rowan looked at his aunt. "You told me Celia was too weak to leave her bed." Mrs. Lark whispered, "She was weak, Your Grace, but not always. Some days she was clear. Those days frightened my lady." The ballroom changed again. The women who had come for the ring now stared at it with horror. Lady Marina Pell, who had nearly passed the Duke's test, stepped away from the velvet stand as if the ring might breathe. Rowan looked at the list once more. Lady Beatrice Harrowmere. Lady Honoria's lips pressed together. "My mother," Rowan said. No one spoke. His mother had died when he was 17. A melancholy decline, they had said. sensitive nerves, grief after childbirth, withdrawal, silence. Lady Honoria had taken charge of the house after that. His father had followed 2 years later. The pattern appeared slowly, hideously, as if someone had painted it on the walls and Rowan had only now learned to see. "Did my mother wear the ring?" he asked. Lady Honoria said, "All duchesses wore the ring." "Did she try to remove it?" No answer. Rowan stepped closer. "Did she?" Mrs. Lark's voice trembled. "Yes, Your Grace. She said it made her feel watched." Lady Honoria closed her eyes. Rowan looked at her. "You told me she lost her senses." "She did." "No, she found yours." The words struck. Lady Honoria's face hardened. At last, the gracious mask broke. "You know nothing of what women do to preserve great houses," Amara answered. "We know what some women do to rule them." Lady Honoria turned on her. "You come here in a wet gown with servant gossip and stolen papers, and you think yourself righteous?" "No," Amara said. "I come because my sister is dead, your niece-in-law is dead, and 30 women nearly offered their hands to the same trap." The 30 women heard that. Really heard it. For the first time, their ambition became fear. Lady Philippa Crane stepped back from her mother. Miss Aurelia Finch, the desperate young woman who had said she would choose safety, began to cry quietly. Rowan saw them. He understood then the full cruelty of the evening. He had thought he was testing women for vanity, but the true test had been whether he could see the ring as something other than his grief. Amara stepped to the table. Celia left one more instruction. Rowan looked at her. "What?" The list inside the ring was not complete. She said the rest was hidden where no duke would think to look. Lady Honoria's face went blank. That was worse than fear. Rowan asked, "Where?" Amara looked toward the far end of the ballroom, at the large portrait of Duchess Celia that had been covered in black cloth since her death. Rowan's chest tightened. He had ordered it covered because he could not bear her eyes watching the room. Or perhaps because someone had wanted him unable to see what was hidden around her. Amara said, behind her portrait. Lady Honoria moved suddenly toward the door. "Stop her," Rowan ordered. 2 footmen blocked Lady Honoria's path. She turned back with fury blazing in her eyes. "You ungrateful boy!" The room fell silent. Boy. Not duke. Not nephew. Boy. Rowan looked at her, and something old inside him went cold. "Remove the cloth," he said. The butler crossed the ballroom and pulled the black covering from Celia's portrait. The painted Duchess looked down at them, young, pale, beautiful, and unsmiling. One hand in the portrait rested over the Harrowmere ring. The other pointed slightly toward a book on the painted table. Amara whispered. She changed the pose before it was finished. Rowan approached the portrait. Behind the frame, hidden in a shallow slit, was a sealed packet. Green wax. Celia's wax. He opened it with hands that no longer cared who saw them shake. Inside were letters. Several. One addressed to him, one to the magistrate, one to the next woman offered the ring, and one bearing only 3 words on the outside. For the child. Rowan stopped. His heart struck hard. The child? He looked at Amara. She had gone very pale. Lady Honoria's voice came low and dangerous. "Do not open that here." Rowan looked at her. The ballroom held its breath. Then from behind the servants' door came a small sound. A child's cough. Amara's face changed. Rowan turned toward the sound. A little girl stepped partly into view, clutching Mrs. Lark's skirt. Dark curls, wide eyes, a small dove pendant around her neck, Celia's pendant. Rowan could not breathe. Lady Honoria whispered, "That child should not be here." Amara stepped toward the girl. The girl looked past her, straight at Rowan, and in a frightened voice she asked, "Is he the Duke Mama said must not wear the ring?" The room went utterly silent. Rowan stared at the child, then at Amara, then at Celia's sealed packet in his hand, and beneath the uncovered portrait of his dead wife, he finally understood. The ring had not only hidden evidence. It had hidden a daughter. The little girl stood beside the servant's door with both hands twisted in Mrs. Lark's apron. No one in the ballroom breathed. Not the 30 women who had come hoping to wear the Harrowmere ring. Not their mothers, whose faces had shifted from ambition to horror. Not Lady Honoria, who looked at the child as if a locked coffin had opened in the middle of dinner. Not Amara Blythe, whose face had gone pale with fear and relief at once. And not Duke Rowan Harrowmere. He stared at the girl beneath the uncovered portrait of his dead wife and felt the entire world narrow to one impossible truth. Dark curls, wide eyes, a small dove pendant at her throat. Celia's pendant. The pendant Rowan had clasped around his wife's neck on their first winter at Harrowmere, when she had smiled and said, "A dove in a house of hawks, how brave of you." Now it hung around the neck of a child no one had told him existed. The girl looked at him again, uncertain. "Is he angry?" she whispered. The question broke him more than any accusation could have. Rowan tried to speak. No sound came. Lady Honoria recovered first. "She is a servant's child," she said. The words were cold, quick, and too loud. Mrs. Lark pulled the girl closer. Amara stepped in front of them. "No." Lady Honoria turned on her. "You have done enough." "I have not done half enough." Rowan finally found his voice. "What is her name?" Lady Honoria answered. "No one of consequence." The Duke turned toward her slowly. The whole room felt the change. He did not shout. He did not need to. "I asked," he said, "her name." Amara's voice trembled, but she answered clearly. "Elian." The name struck Rowan through the chest. Celia had loved that name. Years ago, before illness, before fear, before the closed rooms and whispered reports, she had said if they ever had a daughter, she wanted to call her Elian, because it sounded like light through glass. Rowan looked at the child. "How old?" Amara swallowed. Three. Celia had died 3 years ago. Rowan's hand tightened around the sealed packet. The one marked, "For the child." He turned to Lady Honoria. "You told me Celia died without issue." She did. A gasp passed through the room. Even now, even with the child standing before them, Lady Honoria would not surrender the lie. Rowan's voice lowered. "Look at her." "I am looking," Lady Honoria said. "I see a child dressed in sentiment, brought here by a desperate woman." Amara's eyes flashed. "Desperate women are not always liars, my lady. Sometimes they are the only ones left alive to tell the truth." The little girl hid her face against Mrs. Lark's skirt. Rowan saw the movement. Fear. Not fear of strangers, fear of being seen. A child should not know how to hide in a ballroom. He turned back to the packet from Celia. His fingers moved carefully over the green seal. He broke it. Inside were 4 letters and a folded certificate. Rowan opened the certificate first. A birth record. Private. Witnessed by Dr. Ellery. Signed by Mrs. Lark. Mother, Celia, Duchess of Harrowmere. Father, Rowan, Duke of Harrowmere. Child, Elian Celia Harrowmere. The letters blurred in his hand. His daughter had not been hidden by accident. She had been recorded, protected, named, then erased. Rowan looked at Mrs. Lark. "You witnessed this." The old housekeeper began to cry. "Yes, Your Grace. Why was I not told?" Mrs. Lark's lips trembled. "I tried. Her Grace tried first. She asked to see you after the child was born. Lady Honoria said you were ill with grief and would not come. Then she said the Duchess had become confused. Then Dr. Ellery was dismissed. Then the nursery was moved below stairs, and we were told the child had been sent away for safety." "Sent where?" Mrs. Lark looked at Amara. "To Miss Blythe." Amara stepped forward. "My sister Alice worked here. Celia trusted her. When Alice died, the child came to me. Celia begged me to keep Elian hidden until the ring appeared again." Rowan looked down at the ring on the table. "Why the ring?" Amara's voice dropped. "Because Celia believed Lady Honoria would only bring it out when she was ready to replace her completely." The room shivered around the words. 30 women had come to compete for a jewel. They had nearly competed for a dead woman's place while her daughter lived in hiding. Lady Honoria laughed suddenly. It was not amusement. It was anger losing its manners. Replace her. Celia was failing this house long before she died. Weak, sentimental, suspicious. She saw enemies everywhere. Rowan's face hardened. She saw one clearly. Lady Honoria's eyes sharpened. Do not be foolish. You think this child saves the house? A daughter does not secure Harrowmere the way a son would. That was the problem. Celia gave you fragility, not succession. The words landed across the room like ice. Eliane did not understand all of it. But she understood enough to shrink. Rowan saw, and something in him, long buried beneath grief and obedience, finally rose. My daughter is not a problem. Lady Honoria's mouth tightened. She is a complication. No, he said. She is Harrowmere. The ballroom went silent. Lady Honoria stared at him. For the first time, she looked truly afraid. Not because of the evidence. Because Rowan had chosen the child publicly. Amara's eyes filled. Rowan opened the letter addressed to him. Celia's handwriting filled the page, faint but steady. He read aloud, voice rough. Rowan, if our daughter stands before you, then someone braver than I survived long enough to bring her home. Do not waste time hating yourself. Hate is another room they can lock you inside. Open the ring, open the portrait, open the rooms I was told never to enter. And when they say I was unwell, ask why truth always made them reach for medicine. The women in the ballroom stirred. Lady Honoria stood rigid. Rowan continued. I took off the ring because I found the list hidden inside it. The women before me were not weak, they were silenced. I do not know how much proof will survive me, but I have hidden enough for you to begin. Trust the woman who brings this. Trust Mrs. Lark. Trust no one who asks you to protect the house before you protect the child. His voice broke on the last word. He lowered the letter. Eliane looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. Rowan did not rush toward her. He wanted to. Every part of him wanted to cross the floor, kneel, and gather 3 stolen years into his arms. But he had already learned one lesson too late. Love without patience can frighten the innocent. So he lowered himself where he stood, not fully kneeling before the room, only enough to meet the child's eyes. Miss Eliane, he said softly, I am Rowan. A faint tremor passed through the room at the sound of a duke introducing himself to his own daughter like a stranger at a door. The child clutched Mrs. Lark's apron. Mama said Rowan must be careful. Rowan's throat tightened. She was right. Are you careful? I am learning. Eliane looked at Amara. Amara nodded, crying silently. Then the child touched the dove pendant. Mama said if the ring came out, I must not touch it. Rowan looked at the black diamond ring on the velvet. Once, it had been a symbol of power, then grief, then evidence. Now it looked like a trap waiting for another hand. He stood and turned to the 30 women. Ladies, none of you will wear this ring tonight. No one objected. Even the most ambitious mothers had gone quiet. Rowan turned to the butler. Send for the magistrate. Send for Dr. Ellery if he still lives. Send riders to secure the dowager's sitting room and the hidden chamber behind it. No papers are to be moved. No fires lit. No carriage leaves Harrowmere. Lady Honoria's face went cold. You intend to parade family shame before the county? Rowan looked at her. No. I intend to stop calling crimes family shame. She took one step toward him. You ungrateful boy. The room froze again. There it was. The voice beneath the silk. The command beneath the care. The woman who had ruled sons, widowers, servants, physicians, and frightened young duchesses by making obedience sound like duty. Rowan's reply was calm. I was grateful because I was grieving. I confused management with love. Lady Honoria's eyes burned. I kept this house standing. You kept it locked. I gave you order. You gave me silence. I protected you from Celia's madness. Rowan lifted the birth certificate. You protected me from my daughter. Lady Honoria had no answer. The magistrate arrived before midnight. So did Dr. Ellery. Older now, slower, but alive. When he entered the ballroom and saw Amara, Mrs. Lark, the child, and the uncovered portrait of Celia, his face folded with grief. "I kept copies," he said before anyone asked. "I was dismissed, but I kept copies." From his medical bag, he produced statements Celia had signed, records of Eliane's birth, notes about the ring, and the names of women who had suffered under the same pattern, called fragile, called unstable, isolated, dosed, and disbelieved. No violent spectacle followed. No dramatic confession shouted across the floor. The evidence did what evidence does when finally allowed into light. It made denial smaller. Lady Honoria stood through the reading, with her chin lifted. But when Dr. Ellery presented the duplicate birth record, when Mrs. Lark confirmed the hidden chamber, when Amara gave Celia's letter to the magistrate, the old woman's power began leaving her inch by inch. At last, the magistrate ordered her removed for formal inquiry. Lady Honoria looked at Rowan one final time. "You will regret this when the house turns against you." Rowan glanced toward Eliane. "The house has already turned against too many innocent people. Let it turn toward truth for once." The officers led Lady Honoria out. The ballroom did not applaud. No one cheered. Some endings are not victories. They are doors opening after years without air. When she was gone, the 30 women slowly began to leave. Not with gossiping excitement, but with lowered voices and shaken faces. Miss Aurelia Finch paused near the ring. She had been the one who answered honestly that she wanted safety. Rowan looked at her. "You were right to fear it." Aurelia whispered, "I thought a ring could save me." "So did many women," Amara said quietly. Aurelia looked at Eliane. "May it never be used that way again." Then she left. By dawn, the ballroom was empty. The chandeliers had burned low. The black velvet table remained, but the ring was no longer beneath glass. It rested in an evidence box beside Celia's letters, the list of names, the birth certificate, and the folded note to the next woman offered the ring. Rowan stood before Celia's portrait. Eliane slept in a chair near Mrs. Lark, wrapped in Amara's cloak. Her small hand still held the dove pendant. Amara stood beside the Duke. "She asked me to bring her only when the ring appeared," she said softly. "I wanted to come sooner." "Why did you not?" "Because Celia said a grieving man, controlled by the wrong house, would mistake truth for attack. She said the ring would force you to ask the right question in front of witnesses." Rowan closed his eyes. "She still knew me. Yes, and she still protected me from myself." Amara did not answer. She did not need to. After a long silence, Rowan asked, "Did Celia suffer greatly?" Amara's face softened with pain. She was afraid, but she was not broken. She planned until the end. Every letter, every hiding place, every witness. She did not leave helplessly, Your Grace. Rowan looked at his wife's portrait. For 3 years, he had remembered Celia as someone taken from him. Now he understood her as someone who had fought after everyone told him she was too weak to stand. "She saved our daughter," he said. "Yes. And you kept her alive." Amara lowered her gaze. "I did what your wife asked." "No," Rowan said. "You did more. You risked becoming the kind of woman this house destroys." Amara's eyes lifted. For the first time, exhaustion showed through her composure. "I was afraid every day. Yet you came." "She asked me to." He nodded. "Then Harrowmere owes you more than gratitude." Before she could respond, Eliane stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. She looked around the large ballroom, confused for one frightened second, then saw Amara. Then Mrs. Lark. Then Rowan. She did not smile, but she did not hide. That alone felt like mercy. Rowan walked closer and stopped several feet away. "Good morning, Miss Eliane." She looked at him carefully. "Are we leaving?" "No. Are you?" The question nearly undid him. "No," he said, "not unless you ask me to stand farther away." She considered this with grave seriousness. "Not too close yet." He bowed his head. "Not too close." Amara turned away to hide tears. Eliane looked at the covered evidence box. "Where is the bad ring?" Rowan followed her gaze. "It will never be worn again." "Good. Yes," he said softly. Good. Weeks later, Harrowmere changed. Not quickly. Great houses do not become honest overnight, simply because one terrible truth is spoken aloud. Rooms had to be opened, papers had to be read, servants had to learn that answers would not be punished, portraits once hidden beneath black cloth were uncovered. Celia's portrait remained in the ballroom, not as decoration, as witness. The Harrowmere ring was never returned to its velvet pedestal. Rowan had it placed in a locked case in the chapel archive beside a plaque naming every woman on Celia's list. Not as a jewel of honor, but as a warning. Power can be polished until it shines. That does not make it clean. Eliane moved into the east nursery, but only after Amara inspected every room and Eliane approved the curtains herself. Rowan visited every morning at the same time, always knocking first. At first she called him the Duke, then Rowan. One rainy afternoon, while drawing birds at the nursery table, she looked up and asked, "Did Mama love you?" Rowan sat very still. "Yes," he said, "even when I did not deserve how bravely she did it." Eliane thought about that. "Did you love her?" "With all I understood then, not as well as I should have." The child frowned. "That is a sad answer. It is an honest one." She nodded, accepting this. Then she pushed a drawing toward him. It showed a large black hawk, a small dove, and a woman standing between them with a letter in her hand. "Is that your mother?" Rowan asked. Eliane shook her head. "That is Miss Amara. She brought the letter." Rowan looked at the drawing, then toward the window, where Amara walked in the garden below with Mrs. Lark. "Yes," he said, "she did." The 30 women who had come for the ring became a story society told in many versions. Some said the Duke of Harrowmere had staged the strangest bride selection in England. Some said Lady Honoria had been wronged by servant gossip. Some said Celia had haunted the ballroom. But those inside Harrowmere knew the truth. 30 women came for his ring. The 31st came with his dead wife's letter. And because of that letter, a duke learned the ring had never been a prize. It had been a prison, a warning, a witness. And finally, when opened by truth instead of ambition, the key that brought his daughter home.